Hey guys, Coach Pop. Thanks for joining me for the video cast. Today's video, though, is really an introduction. Lesson 2.4 is primarily a PDF reading assignment, but I want to just sort of give you some context for this because it's really related to the key concept of urban civilization and its consequences. So if you look on your outline, Roman numeral 5, extending the core civilizations, is what the primary point of the assignment is, but it involves migration. So I want to remind you that early on in the ancient period, out of Africa migrations are the earliest migrations of humans, beginning around 100,000 years ago, moving from Africa into Asia, Australia, Europe, and the Americas. That's a very old migration route. What we're talking about, though, are two migrations that happened towards the end of the ancient period, and their consequences primarily, they didn't invent civilizations. They're not among the core civilizations, but as they spread, as they migrated, they picked up the idea and the habits of civilization and then spread them to other areas. The first of these are the Indo-European peoples. Now, these peoples, as you'll read, we think are among the first to have domesticated the horse ever in human history. The horse is going to be a big impact, and they start moving, and you'll notice on your outline there's four different waves, and you'll read more, we'll talk more in class about these particular people. But what I want you to notice, the map that is also in the PDF you're about to read, I want you to notice a couple of details. First, look at the origin. That is a region just north of the Caucasus Mountains. This is where the word Caucasian incidentally comes from. They begin there where they domesticated the horse and then move in various waves. The first one, the Tocharians, about 4000 BCE, head east. We don't know exactly what happened to them. We think they kind of blended in with all of the other pastoral nomads that were living throughout Afro-Eurasia, but they probably brought the horse with them. The second wave heads south, but notice the route. Some will turn and head into Anatolia, modern Turkey. Some will continue on into what will become known as Persia, and some will continue on and cross the Indus Valley to become what we know as India. But a third wave heads north. Now look at that, because they kind of split into three groups. Some will then turn and head south to become Greeks. Some will continue on and become Slavs. And then another group will just keep going north. They become known as Baltic people. The fourth wave, actually, we think, headed from Anatolia. They were Indo-Europeans, but they didn't migrate from the homeland, the origin originally. They head into Western Europe. They will become the Italic people, the Celtic people, the Germanic people that we'll talk more about later on. Another group, though, known as the Semites, Semitic peoples, were early agriculturalists. They were among the first people to learn to domesticate plants. They, as is listed on your sheet, move in waves, but in very different waves. First thing to notice, around 600,000 years ago, they move from an origin that we think that was near the Levant, and the first group heads east into Mesopotamia. These are the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and they just replicate what the Mesopotamian civilizations did. Literally, they're different peoples, but they just do the same things. The second wave, though, heads west. These include the Hebrews and the Phoenicians, and they settle more towards the coast. And as we'll see in just a moment, they bring with them several crucial innovations. And the third group heads south. Now they will split off, and some of them will eventually become known as Arabs. Some will head south and then cross back into East Africa, where Ethiopians exist today. This is a map you're going to see again next week. But this is the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians and the Hebrews, when they headed west, set up some cities along the Levant, the coast of the Mediterranean. But the Phoenicians were unique because they were seafaring peoples. They were primarily focused on trade by the Mediterranean Sea. And so, what they ended up doing is setting up little trade communities throughout the Mediterranean where they'd trade with anybody who would trade with them. They, however, are the ones that invented the idea of an alphabet, not writing, but an alphabetic type of writing. We'll get more into that later on. Just remember, though, those were Semitic peoples. Now, this is again an introduction. The heart of what you've got to do involves reading the PDF and answering the reading questions. Get those done. If you have them on time, make sure that you get a stamp. I want to thank you for paying attention, not just today, but for all of these lessons. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad I get to be your teacher, and I can't wait to see you in class.